What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Building Code. I'm your co-host, Charlie Birtwistle.
And I'm Courtney Matern.
Courtney Matern, how you doing today?
Good, I'm back.
We're back.
Well, I don't know, actually, because we record so many episodes, like, out of order. So I don't know if it's the first time people are seeing me or the second time.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's the second time I saw you in back-to-back. No, we had a day in between. But the second time this week. This is my favorite spot to be in the entire Buildertrend office, and getting to come in here twice in a week is awesome.
Yeah, we're going to get to hang out so much more now.
I know. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. Just, you got to help me look good.
Oh, yeah. Well, likewise. We can build off each other for sure. Courtney, who do we have today?
Today we have Katlyn Slocum. She's creative director at Katlyn Slocum Design. I'm super thrilled to be in my comfort zone with this episode because it's all about website design, web marketing, and why websites can be such a valuable tool for builders. And you'll hear it when we get into the episode, but man, I have a bone to pick with builders.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. I also feel like I'm going to be very, very laid back in this episode and just kind of let you do your thing, Courtney, because this is your world.
It is. Let's go.
Let's do it. Hey, Katlyn, welcome to The Building Code. Really appreciate you making the time to join us today. We are super excited to have you. How's it going today?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited. I was talking to Courtney about this before, but like we always get quick little bios and kind of like overview of who the guest is and like the questions and the topic of the episode. And this is a topic that is really, really interesting to me. And you seem like a very, very interesting person from the bio as well, too.
Oh, thanks.
But for the listeners that didn't get the quick one pager on Katlyn, could you give a quick kind of background of who you are, where you came from, and how you kind of decided to start your own web design company?
Yeah. So, like you guys said, my name is Katlyn Slocum. I was living in Washington State, but my family and I just moved cross country. We're in the Cincinnati, Ohio area now. I started my web design business about 6 years ago. And I've always focused my web design projects really on the trades and contractors, because that's just what I grew up with in my family. All the men in my family owned their own businesses in that space. You know, my stepdad was a roofer. My dad owned his own HVAC company. My grandpa owned an auto repair shop. My husband today doesn't own his own business, but he is an electrician. So it was just like my comfort zone, working with those types of people and knowing kind of the ins and outs of, you know, what they go through. And then, so I've always served that audience. I didn't go to school for web design. Actually, I was a music major for the longest time. But as I started going through school longer and longer, just not really able to make up my mind what I wanted to do, I got a general business degree, started working for a startup there in Washington, started having kids. And when the startup company went out of business and I was laid off, I was kind of scrambling to find some other work. And this is pre-pandemic, so there wasn't as many remote positions available. I was, pregnant with my second at the time, and I wanted some flexibility with work, being able to work from home. So a friend of mine had his own consulting company in the wastewater industry, super random, and he needed some help on his website and his social media. So he kind of paid me hourly to just do some stuff for him. And I realized like I actually really liked doing the creative side of things, the web design side. So I just kind of fully threw myself into that field, took several courses, really self-taught myself, and it's somehow grown to where it is today, where I primarily serve custom home builders with website design. And in the last couple of years, really started to niche further into website strategy specifically. So it's a little bit of background.
I love that story. Like, you said yes to that one project. You needed to take on some extra side work, and look where it led you.
Yeah, exactly. I never was the person that was like, yeah, I'm going to start my own business. I didn't think I was like entrepreneurial at all. I figured I'd work in the corporate world for several years, but it's been such a blessing. And I just really committed myself to it, and it's grown, and it gives me the freedom to work from home. I have 3 kids now, and yeah, it's been amazing.
Love that. I love the background. I actually think it's really similar. A lot of times, like guests that we've had on here in the construction space, very similar, where they're like, I can do this remodel myself, or I can, some as far as like, I can build a new home myself. And then next thing you know, fast forward 5 years and they have their own business going. So I'm sure that'll resonate with a lot of people's backgrounds as well too. As you kind of had aligned on, okay, I like web design, I like doing this. Was there a specific reason you went after kind of the business of home builders? You said you kind of specialize in that now. Or is it something that just kind of happened organically as well?
That also happened kind of organically because, yeah, like I said, when I first started, I was working with plumbers and concrete companies and electricians and just like that general contractor space, I guess. And it it was very random how the home builder thing happened because there's nobody in my family or nobody I know who builds homes, and that's their profession. But I was on Brad Levitt's podcast with AFT Construction, and after just chatting with him, we got off the podcast recording and he was like, "Oh, I like a lot of what you were saying really resonates with me. I've been needing to redo my website, like let's have a conversation. Can you send me a proposal?" And long story short, he ended up hiring me to do his website. And what was really cool about that for me from a design aspect is it's so much more fun and beautiful, I guess, to work with, somebody who's putting out these beautiful custom homes, in Brad's case, very luxury, high end, than, putting pictures of toilets and pipes and stuff on websites. So just something about that, I was like, wow, this brings joy to me because I'm still in that construction space where I like to be, but I get some of that like aesthetic with the work that I do. So that happened very randomly, and I just kind of then threw myself and further niched into builders. So yeah, that was very random.
We know Brad really well. He's been on the podcast. We work with him a lot here at Buildertrend, and leave it to Brad to be the perfect example of a builder who hears good advice and realizes, oh, maybe I should do something about my website.
Very decisive. Yeah.
So what are some of the goals that builders have when they set out to work with you on their website? Is it that they have no website at all, or it's just been kind of like an online brochure and they want to take it up a notch?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix. So I would say I work with probably 50-50. Like 50% of the people I work with have no website presence at all, and they know they need to be forward thinking. There's a market they're missing just by not being online, because there are still a lot of builders that it's very much word of mouth and referral based, which is amazing. But there's that reality or that realization too that, well, even if people refer me, they're still wanting to see some sort of online presence and like, I'm legit, see my work and that kind of thing. And then the other 50% do have websites that are either just outdated or they're not performing how they want. And it's my job to kind of dig into these goals with them, because a lot of times any business kind of approaches a website project like, oh yeah, like I want my website to be prettier or whatever. They're very focused on the visuals. And my job is to kind of draw out, well, like, how can the website better serve you? And I think a lot of people don't realize that it can be a more powerful asset and sales tool in your business. And so that's where I dive deeper with them on their overall business goals. And common goals that I hear when I'm on these calls with builders is either they want to reach into a more luxury market. Maybe they're doing homes at one price point and they want to be doing them at a higher price point. Maybe they're doing both custom homes and renovations, maybe out of necessity or just because they're only getting maybe they're only getting renovations. They want to be doing more custom homes. So just changing like the type of work that they do, increasing like the amount of inquiries they get through their website. Like a lot of them just have kind of websites that are just sitting there. They're not hearing anything back from it. And so they might be sending traffic there, but they're not getting any return on that. So there's a variety of different pain points that I uncover on these calls with the builders, but it usually comes down to increasing revenue or attracting higher end projects or just making their website more efficient and actually like producing the results that they want from it.
That's super interesting to me. And I think I don't want to say obvious, but the one that I kind of knew you were going to say is getting more leads, like more business in the door. Yeah. But one that I hadn't thought about was like actually pivoting your messaging to what sort of clients you want to go after. If you want to go upstream or downstream or kind of more realign your kind of target client that you'll work with. What is that process like? How do you go about doing that? Is it, I'm not even going to try to give examples. Like, yeah, you mentioned trying to go up, more custom homes or maybe they want to switch to the remodeling space or something like that. Like so often the biggest lead gen in the construction industry is just word of mouth. So if someone does a project, they refer someone that's doing a similar type project. So being more intentional about what sort of projects you want to do is something that we talk about a ton on here. And I'd be really interested in how like really dialing in your website strategy, like you alluded to, can help you accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of that falls into, I would say, like two categories. For like, let's say you're a builder who wants to be attracting a higher end client. First, and I don't know if this has been talked about in the podcast before, I'm not a brand strategist by any means, but there is a lot to be said about building your brand, knowing who your ideal client is, everything about, like, give them a name. How old are they? Do they have families? Where do they shop? What do they do? Where do they live? What are their hobbies? Like, knowing that about the type of people you want to work with helps you build your visual brand and your messaging for that person. And then it's a way that's going to resonate really well with them. So attracting that higher end client from a visual standpoint, and I will speak from my own experience. When my husband and I moved to Ohio, we were like, do we want to build, or are we just going to buy a home? We'll build later. Like, we're still relatively young and building our family. So I just started going to some home builder websites in the area, and certain ones that I would land on just from the visuals, like everything from the photos of their homes to their font styles to just like how the website was laid out. I was like, they're out of our budget. Like, I just knew it. So like, I am not that high end client, and I knew it going on there. I kind of pre-qualified myself and left, and wasn't going to waste their time because I already knew we couldn't afford them. Another way to do it, which I highly recommend, like, if you're going to approach a website project, please invest as much in the messaging and the copywriting on your site as you do on the design, because a quote I use all the time is, design is what primes people to buy, but copy, like the written copy on the site, is what actually does the selling. And it's not to sound salesy, but what I really like is the story brand framework, because it puts you, if anybody doesn't know, Building a Story Brand is a book written by Donald Miller, and it is a marketing messaging framework that's used by major companies across the world. But it tells your marketing messaging through your customer story. So it's less like, we're the best builder in Nashville or things like that. And it's more like you're hitting on the touch points and the feelings and the fears and those type of things that your potential clients are thinking. So you're directly relating to them. And so the copy on your website is also a big factor in how to attract the type of people that you're wanting to attract as well.
Katlyn has just won over the hearts of my entire team. And so here at Buildertrend, I lead our brand team and our web marketing team. And I mean, you hit it on the nail on the head with everything you said. With starting at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned your website's more than just a pretty picture. It's more than just visuals. You're exuding trust. Like you mentioned, people are going to check out your website and they're going to know if you're legit based on the photos you use, based on the copy. Is it misspelled? The fonts you use, are they sketch? So you're really hitting on that nerve of building a brand that can be trusted and knowing that, you're legit to work with, which I think is a big uphill battle for a lot of contractors.
Definitely. And also, like, if you think about it, you're putting your finest work forward with your client projects. If you're not putting that same effort and energy into how you appear and come across, like, a lot of times that website is that first impression. It might be your Instagram feed too. But what you put out there is a direct reflection of yourself. And subconsciously, when we land on a site that looks thrown together, that just doesn't look professional, we automatically make assumptions about that business on how they're, it'd be like if I show up to an interview in ripped jeans and, like a coffee stained t-shirt, like, that's not who I am, but that's the impression that you give off. And so what's to say if somebody lands on your website, it's not reflecting the quality and the meticulousness and the craftsmanship of the work that you do, people are going to subconsciously feel that is the work you put out as well on their project. So, and
you mentioned like if they land on your website, so it's like rewind. What happens when they don't land on your website? Because poorly built websites can be really hard to find. Like Charlie mentioned, word of mouth is still really big in the industry. Say someone hears your company name, they go to search you online, they can't find you. Like, how horrible! Like all the missed opportunities from someone just not being able to find your website. what are some ways that people can make sure, either on the back end, the front end, how they can drive traffic to their website? Say they've invested some time in having an online presence. How do they get people there?
Yeah. So I love talking about this because a lot of times people do just think, oh, I have a website. Like
I posted
people
it. I'm
will find
done.
me now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, here it is. And you might put out some posts on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. You're going to get some traffic because people are clicking on your URL, your direct link. But that doesn't mean if somebody's doing a Google search is gonna, like, for builders in the area, and things like that, that you're going to show up at all. And so there's lots of different, so your website is more of a sales tool than it is a marketing tool. It is part of the marketing tool belt, but marketing is what drives people to your website and gets you that traffic, and sales is where we're actually going to make the conversion and get people to reach out for that first consultation call. So there's lots of ways you can do marketing. I mean, referrals, job signage, physical ads, things like that, your social media, paid ads, whether that's on Google or Facebook or Instagram. And then, of course, organic search engine optimization. So if somebody's typing in, custom home builders near me or luxury builders in Cincinnati, Ohio, that your company is showing up on the first page, hopefully at the top of the first page. And that takes some dedicated time and work and effort to get that there. But can have also the greatest return on investment too, because you're showing up where those direct searches are happening. So there's lots of different ways that you can drive traffic to your website. And then from like a design standpoint, you just want to make sure that when you're approaching a web design project, that whoever you're working with has the at least some basic knowledge about optimizing your site for search engines. You want to make sure we get all these beautiful project images and videos and drone footage from our media teams, but you have to make sure those images, you're not using the maximum file size. It's going to slow down your website. It's going to hurt your rankings. And then just, making sure that the core structure of the website, the headings, and the optimization on site is done right, so that you're not going to hinder any of your, external marketing efforts.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And again, this stuff is just so fascinating to me. I'd love to Freaky Friday swap with Courtney someday and just live in her
do
world.
my job for a minute?
Yeah, if I could have your brain as well too, because this is just an area I don't have a whole lot of expertise. So where my brain continues to go, and this isn't in a pessimistic way, it's just helping connect the dots to other people like me out there, is the so what of all this. And so do you have specific goals or metrics that you're looking at to say, I am getting better, or I am helping this company, whether it be, just bottom line from the company, or maybe you look at conversion rates and engagement in the website itself, or what are some measurables that you use to show the value of the continued iteration and improvement into the websites?
Yeah, definitely. So it really depends on what my clients' goals are. Some of them, their conversion rates are doing great, and they might have a different type of goal. Maybe it's just attracting a different type of client. They're getting plenty of leads. Their website's actually performing well, but then it's a visual and a messaging change to just get a different type of client. But for most of the people I work with, it really is getting more leads and inquiries through their website. So I do look at both traffic and conversion rates. Now, industry standard, and this really depends on your marketplace. Obviously we know the economy and how things are, and the home building world is going to fluctuate. But 2 to 5% is a good metric to look at when it comes to how many people, your conversion rate. So if 100 people land on your site, you want 2 to 5 inquiries a month. That's what we're looking at. Yeah, I'm making sure my math's right. So for example, I had a pool builder in Seattle, really reputable company, been around for 40 years. They just had a really outdated website. They were still getting leads from it, but not to the capacity they could be. With all the traffic they were getting, their conversion rate was under 2%. I think it was 1.8. So they're close. But they wanted to update their brand, really come across as the luxury pool builder that they were. After launch, their conversion rates, and this is a little wild, but their conversion rates from that update went from 1.8% to 14.8%. So instead of 2 inquiries per month through the website, they're getting 14. Now, with service-based businesses like builders, obviously, like you're not an e-commerce shop where a conversion is a sale. It's almost like a two-part conversion. Your website conversion, which gets the inquiry into your inbox, and then you have your own sales process and your sales conversion rate. So let's say this pool builder, out of every 10 leads, they land 3 projects. Well, in the first scenario where they're only getting maybe 2 leads a month, they have to go several months of getting leads to land a project through the website. Where with the new conversion rate, they have 14 leads. They're going to land 3 of those projects. So in just 1 month, like, you put a number on what that looks like revenue wise. And even if it's not a massive shift, like that's 2.8 to 14.8, like it's crazy shift. Even if you go from 1% to 2% conversion rate, you have just doubled your opportunities for a sale. And so the numbers seem small, but the revenue impact can be monumental and like literally game changing. So that's why I really try to like hammer in, know your numbers. Now, if you have a site that's converting really well, but you're still not getting a lot of inquiries, then your problem is probably with traffic and with your like marketing efforts. So you might have a website that's performing really well and capitalizing on the traffic you're getting, but you just need more traffic to come through to get, higher amount of inquiries. So knowing what your traffic is, knowing what your conversion rates are, that will help you see kind of where the weak points are in your online presence. So you're not wasting money. Like if somebody got on a call with me and I can look at their numbers and say, you don't need a redesign. Your website's doing fine. You need to maybe look at SEO or a social media plan or whatever that might be,
or
like
maybe
marketing,
even messaging,
yeah.
like you said with this.
Yeah, exactly.
With the Seattle pool builder, or was it Seattle?
Yeah.
Talking like they improved their conversion rate, but also they had this goal of wanting to get more luxury customers, being more high end. So it's almost like the problem can be twofold. If their conversion rate is low and they're not messaging to the kind of customer they want, then their odds of getting deals that are more lucrative are even slimmer. So like There's also that twofold of, if you're going to set out and you're going to improve your website, also be really bold about who you are and what type of customer you're for. I mean, we do this here at Buildertrend with our messaging. You come to our site, and if you're one of those builders who's maybe just built their first house, we might not be for you. And you get that from our website messaging. We do that on purpose because we don't want you to waste your time.
And that's okay.
Isn't a good fit. It's like a luxury builder taking a call with a client who really just wants like a rebath option.
Right.
And then sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, that's part of your niching down. I think a lot of people are scared, even in the web design world. There's web designers for coaches. There's web designers for, me, a builder. There's web designers for photographers. People get scared of niching down and only being for certain people. But when you do that, you're able to align your messaging, your visual aesthetic, your brand even more so towards the people you want to attract, which makes the sale easier because people come to your site. They're like, oh, they're for me. Like, I know 100% they're for me. It also saves you a ton of time and energy chasing around leads that aren't serious, that are not in your price point. So productivity goes up, efficiency goes up, revenue, like you're not doing one-off jobs like a random bathroom remodel when you want to be more focused on full home renovations. So it can be scary to just be like, we only do this, but it really makes your whole marketing plan more efficient, and your business more efficient, because you're really just putting your energy into the things that are profitable and a good use of your time. So
yeah, and just to double down on something you both have said already, you'd mentioned kind of the 2-phase kind of sales funnel there, where you get the original like lead, and then you actually have to close the lead as well too. Aligning that messaging with, and something you brought up at the very start of this interview, your messaging and your brand on the website with who you actually are as a company. is going to prevent whiplash from this is what I thought I was getting into versus this is what I
Yeah,
actually got. So I'd have to imagine like getting 2 leads to 14 leads is great, but I'd have to imagine the conversion rate post that also is going to improve because this is a
sure.
consistent, seamless client experience as well. And then post
Exactly.
the close of the deal and the actual client experience through the job and who you are as a company is going to continue to be there too. So it's really just a classic like synergy 1+1 = 3. Like everything is going to improve by aligning the brand at
Yeah,
the very top
they're
of the
going
funnel.
into that meeting knowing, like, aside from the process that is like building homes or going through a renovation, which is an extensive process, there's a lot involved to it. They're going in knowing most of what they need to know about who you are, what you do. And so it makes, yeah, it's a time saver. They know what they're getting into, what to expect, who you are. So it kind of like again builds trust and alleviates some of that initial like fear, anxiety of having, like, your website is forming that initial connection and that initial like start to the relationship, which really helps then when you're in person and doing your sales cycle. So
I tell you what, I have a bone to pick though with builders because every year we work with the Association of Professional Builders. They do a survey of residential builders and what's the state of the industry? What are they concerned about? What are they expecting to do revenue wise? And the past few years that we've worked with them, almost, and I spot it because I'm the marketing gal, but I look at the results and I see time and time again, high percentage of builders, 80%, they're really worried about not just getting leads, but getting the right leads. But then when they are asked the question, what are you investing in your marketing? 10% expect to increase their investment in marketing. And like you said, marketing is just one part of the problem. But then you get the question of like, how many of you have a website? And it's like half. And to me, I know, see, it seems so obvious right here. Like, Katlyn, the solution is kind of in their face. Like, websites can seem so 2000, like early 2000s, 19, I don't know, kind of old school tool. But what is your pitch then, knowing that builders out there, like a website, optimizing their website could be a solution to a big problem they have. Like, what is your elevator pitch to them to like make an investment in their website? I get it. I get that they're busy. They've got a
sure.
million other priorities, and maybe it can be the last for a business to make this investment if they're worried about getting cash flow positive or managing their debt. But what would your pitch be to make this investment in their website?
Yeah. So, okay. So with you number one have to think about just where things are going as far as consumer behavior. We are much more digital. People are doing the research. If they're going to be investing hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars with you, like, research is such a big part of it. And they're not going to get everything that they need from your Instagram or your Facebook. So number one is like, you have to have somewhere where you can answer their questions, where you can show them who you are and why you're different than your million other competitors in your marketplace. Also, your website is, at least it should be looked at as an asset. It is something that you own in your business. Now, if you don't own your website, if you have a marketing company that is holding you hostage with monthly fees, and if you stop paying them, your website goes away, your website is not an asset. It is more liability. You're being like, you're renting it from them. Your website should be an asset. Instagram, Facebook, social media in general, at any moment, those algorithms can change, or like,
They could
go
go
down
away.
or whatever. Yeah, they could completely go away, be irrelevant anymore. Your website is something you actually own, and that you have some more control over, for sure. So that's super important, to consider, just that it is actually something that you should own and that you, have full control over. Oh, I had another thing I was going to say and I just lost it.
It's because you have a million great things to
There's
say.
like, yeah, seriously. I mean, those are like kind of the main ones. And just again, like, you do have a ton of things on your plate, especially if you're somebody who's still like on job sites every day, like boots on the ground. You don't necessarily have your team built out, but it's not something you have to know when to outsource. And obviously you have to find somebody you trust, but you don't have to do everything on your own. If you do have the capital and you do have the money to invest, to be forward thinking of like, hey, my pipeline's filled for the next 2 years, but then what after that? There's no guarantee that that's going to keep going. So getting ahead of it now, getting that website up, getting that search engine, like that SEO going, so you can rise in the ranks and get in front of more people who are going to be searching for you, like do that now when you're busy and you're booked out 2 years. Don't wait until it's like, oh,
Until you're
shoot,
panicking.
I haven't been referred anybody and now I have no projects coming up. Like these are the things that you should be proactive about now when you do have some stuff in your pipeline coming up.
I love that. I know we're getting close to time here, but I have two questions I kind of want to end on here. The first, and I think they kind of go hand in hand. The first is like, what's a good kind of checklist or questions to ask yourself for builders listening to this of, is my website helping me hit my business goals or not? Is it something they just kind of know inherently? I would guess probably yes. If you're even asking yourself that question, you know, it's probably not where you need it to be. And then part two of that question is, if I'm someone listening to this and I've been honest with myself and realized, yeah, I need to spend more time, what are some good resources to kind of get started? Like, obviously we'll link your website in our show notes here. People can just reach out to you. But maybe if I'm not really quite ready to make that commitment yet and go out and hire someone, I'm like, what can I do just first steps to start improving this?
Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, just take some time to, and I know a lot of builders do this already in their executive planning sessions, but take some time to actually think about, what goals do I have for my business? And then what do I need in place to meet those goals? So maybe you want to get, 6 to 8 homes a year instead of 4 to 6. Okay. Then you need more leads. You need to have more conversations. What do you need to do to get more leads and get more conversations? A lot of time it's like marketing, my website. So first write down what your goals are. And then when it comes to the website, a few questions you can ask yourself is like, do I know how much traffic I'm getting? Like how many people are looking at my website each month? Or if the people who are looking at my website, are they actual prospects, or are these coming from like other states that I don't even serve? Because that's a waste of. So then you can kind of see like what traffic sources are productive and like legit, and others like, this is not, like something's disconnected here. How many inquiries are you getting each month through your website? An easy way to calculate your conversion rate is take how many leads you get from your website in a month and divide it by the amount of people who have visited your site. So maybe you had 500 people visit your site and 1 lead. That's your conversion rate, 1 divided by 500. So find out what your numbers are. And then like, if we're sitting at 0.5% or 1%, then you can see like there's a gap that needs to be met there. You want to get that up and get more inquiries in your inbox. Also be thinking about with builders, it's a long sales cycle. And like with any product or service, there's a lot of touch points that have to happen before people decide to work with you. They're looking at your Instagram, they're looking at your Facebook, they're looking at your website, then they're going to go do it again before they actually decide to work with you. I think on average, it's like 8 or more touch points. For a builder, it's probably higher because it is such a high investment. So be thinking about what things that you can do to connect and build relationships with those leads that are warming up to you, whether that's adding a free download or like something free on your website to, put yourself in front of that person, say, hey, here's something of value that I'm giving away for free. It puts you at the top of their minds. Email them, utilize email marketing to warm up those leads. So when they're ready, they've seen some emails come into their inbox. They know who you are. They're still looking you up. So you're priming more of those warm leads into a potential sale one day. So be thinking about those things that you can do to help with your engagement and getting people to that next level when they're ready. So those are some things I would look at initially: traffic, conversions, like looking at your numbers, and be thinking about ways that you can warm up some of the prospects out there. And then, sorry, what was your part 2 question? Oh, resources. So yeah, so a couple resources that I have, there is, if you're really into data and you're techie and you like that kind of stuff, analytics, hotjar.com is a user behavior tool, and they do have a free version that you can install on your website. And so install that on your website. It'll gather data over the days and the weeks, and it'll show you real-time user behaviors. It shows you what device they're viewing your website on, if they're clicking on anything and links are broken. It shows you what pages they look at. It shows you like kind of where they're frustrated or having a hard time understanding things. You literally see their mouse movements. You see like where they're clicking around. So that can give some good insights to see if anything is not working on your website. So the free version of Hotjar would be a great place to start if you're like very into data and analytics. I also have a free checklist on my website called the 10 things every home builder needs on their website. That gives some like practical, like applicable things that you can do to just see better results from your website. So that is available for free. And also, I guess I can mention this now. I also, at a lower investment, kind of a DIY option that I put together for specifically for home builders, is my Sanctuary Homes template. So it's a Squarespace website template where I've taken my experience and my knowledge in website strategy and implemented the best strategies onto that template, and then it's got a very luxury feel from the images, the fonts, like things like that. So you can get this template, input your branding, your messaging, and launch it in like a week. And just have a good starting point for somebody who doesn't have a website right now, or they have one they threw up and it's just not doing anything. That's a really good place to start to at least see some better results. It's a DIY option for those on a budget. So a couple free tools, the template, that's where I'd start. There's lots of good stuff out there, but yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
What's one thing you wish builders would stop doing with their websites? You've seen a lot. So like, what's the one thing you just wish they would stop doing?
Oh man. One thing that I see a lot is, I was just going to say, it's very like disorganization or unorganization. They either have a very loaded menu. So when you go to a website, you have your navigation menu. And a lot of times there's a lot of links up there. It's like financing, and then it's all our services, and it's our FAQs, and they have a testimonials page and a blog, and there's like 20 links up there. I call them Cheesecake Factory menus because it's like, you've gone to the Cheesecake Factory, it's like a 50-page menu. And it's very overwhelming. It's very overwhelming for users to be like, okay, I landed on your site. Now I have no idea where to go because it's option overload. And so simplifying, like, again, this goes back to your goals. If you're like, your goal is to get more inquiries, what are the main things people need to see on your site to get them to actually reach out? Usually that's only a couple pages. They're going to look at your portfolio. They're probably going to look at your about page to learn a little bit about you. And that's really it. And then like maybe a process page that walks them through that. That'll go over like some frequently asked questions, a little bit about what it's like to work with you. So that's your primary service page. Outside of that, everything else should not be up there. There shouldn't be a bunch of links to it on your homepage. You really want to only show what is most essential for them to make a buying decision or a decision to reach out. And simplify your whole website for that. Everything else can go in your footer. Like people know that more links for any website is always in the footer. Focus on the primary goals and that main header navigation. And then for the links throughout your site, guiding them to the contact page. Everything else can go in the bonus, like junk drawer, which is your footer, where they can find other links if they're interested. But you don't want to put those stumbling blocks or those barriers in their way of just getting to contact you. And sometimes like I can't even find the contact button on a builder site, which is a big no-no. Like that's a huge hindrance because people are not going to take the time to search.
That's probably a good start doing then. Yeah. One thing you wish builders would start doing is have a contact us button.
Yeah,
the top of the
site,
site,
first and foremost. Yeah.
So yes, builders, hear Katlyn's plea: no more Cheesecake Factory menus. And while we're at it, like my plea to like, if you're really worried about getting qualified leads, don't overlook your website.
Right, and your messaging. Yes.
Love it, Katlyn. Thank you so much for your time today. As you were kind of giving your outro there, I was scrolling through your website. And there's a ton of free resources on there.
Yes.
Time to schedule time to chat with you directly as well too. I also saw the little section that says you may have heard me on, so excited to get the building code up on there as well too.
100%.
No, this was awesome interview. Really, really appreciate the time. Very, very insightful. And I can tell why you're as successful as you are because you're truly passionate about what you do, and it was an absolute joy talking to you today.
I am. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we just heard from Katlyn Slocum at Katlyn Slocum Design. Super, super fascinating episode. I was just pumping her up there at the end, but I meant every word of it. Like, this stuff just fascinates me. And I love hearing about website design, SEO, marketing, all this really, really interesting stuff in the kind of vertical of construction. It's kind of like my two passions colliding there. So Katlyn was awesome to have on as a guest, but this is much more your world than my world. So I will leave the ultimate review to you. What did you think?
Well, one, I should have known, Katlyn knows our friend Brad at AFT Construction. I feel like Brad knows everyone.
Yeah.
So I should have known as soon as she said Brad, I was like, this is going to be a good interview if she's worked with Brad as well. I think my review is, it's a 10 out of 10. Like, listen to Katlyn, take her advice, like review your website. It is the front door of your business. You wouldn't open an office space and just hope people show up. You would do things to drive people into that office space, into that store, and you would take care of it. You would make sure that it's optimized and working. And of course, she's after my whole team's heart, because it's not just about beautiful images. In fact, beautiful images can slow your website down. It's also about the story you're telling with your brand. So I think her message also being proactive, taking a proactive approach to your website and your marketing. So many people wait until they're panicking, until they're not getting the leads or the customers they want. And then they say, oh no, I've got to do something. But by then, too little, too late. You should do this while, it can be a fun project where you can put creative effort into it. And it'll help set you apart if you're doing it proactively.
Yeah. I love what she said at the end there on kind of the right time to do this and how you should know when it's time to do it. You should really start with just what are your goals for the next year? And obviously we've been, pitching this entire interview and episode is like growing more, getting more business, but maybe you like where everything's at. Your goals are maintain status quo. Then maybe this investment isn't for you. I just know that there's a majority of our listeners out there that are constantly trying to get better, get more efficient, get better leads, make more money, do more deals. But aligning this with your goals is going to easily be able to tie that ROI back to you and ensure that you are ready for the influx of leads. Like, there are multiple other things that you have to do to handle those leads, improve your sales process, improve the number of crews you have, the number of efficiencies that you have. Like, it's not any good if you're getting more top of the funnel leads if you can't actually do the jobs to get paid for doing the jobs. So it's part of a much larger strategy, but a very, very important piece of it that when you think about the holistic customer journey, this is the very, very first touch point, a lot of things, the very, very top of the funnel. And the very, very first step you should take in ensuring everything downstream flows seamlessly and you have consistent messaging and you're just dialed in from the very, very start. So setting that up with your goal setting exercise that you're performing, to me, just made a ton of sense to ensure that you're really being intentional about why you're doing this and the improvements that you're going to see.
Well, and I don't want to hear from any of the builders who are like, I have enough projects lined up for the next 2 years, but are they the projects that are going to get you to the next level for your business? Like, be serious in asking yourself that. I know that there's more work to go around than there is time to get it done. But like she said, same amount of work, but different types of work. Maybe you want to go up or down market or change the type of demographic that you're working with or the type of projects that you're doing. Exactly. So be honest about what your goals are and if the tools that you're using are helping you get there. Love it. Well, that will do it for us today. As always, if you're listening, we would really appreciate a like, review, subscribe. Join us at the Building Code Crew on Facebook. Otherwise, we will see you next time. I'm Charlie Birtwistle. And I'm Courtney Matern. Peace. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.